All right, so let's talk about the rest of season 6 of Cobra Kai. I've got my predictions here for how the show is going to end. And again, I'm letting you know now that this could actually be a spoiler. I'm going to say a prediction, but this stuff could come true based on my viewing of these episodes. I did rewatch season 6 after I did my initial review, and I went back and skimmed through the old series again. I had just got done watching it all within a couple weeks, so it's fresh in my mind. So I want to give you my predictions on where we're going to go. But of course, before I go any further, please be aware that this video is going to contain spoilers for all of Cobra Kai, going all the way back to season 1, including the newest episode. So please do not watch this until you're caught up with the show. So obviously part 2 of season 6 will be the tournament, Sekai, Taikai, and we're going to see a lot of different countries represented, different teams, and they're all going to be vying for the top. Now, based on some leaks that came out, it seems like this tournament is not going to be the same as previous tournaments. It looks like there are parts that are multiple people fighting at once. Also, the fact that Miyagi was in this tournament with blood on the headband tells me that this tournament may actually have different rules than just the traditional point karate. It could end up being a knockout tournament. None of that has been revealed yet because they haven't actually gone through what the rules are for the tournament. So, if you remember, going back to Karate Kid Part 1, Miyagi told Daniel he only fought for his life, not for a tournament. And it seems like that, I know some folks might think that's a retcon, but I think that there's more to be told of Miyagi's past, and I do think we're going to find out about it in the rest of season 6. I think the idea is going to be that Miyagi was a flawed man, maybe even a bully, maybe even used karate for the wrong ways. And I think that Daniel will have to come to terms with the fact that Miyagi was a bad man at one time in his life, but by the time that Miyagi met Daniel, he was an older gentleman, calmed down, got it out of his system, and kind of became a good person. Let's be honest, most people are flawed, especially when they're young. I can speak for myself, and if you're listening to this right now and you're telling me you've never done anything wrong in your life, you're a liar. And if you're telling me you have no regrets, you're probably a sociopath or a narcissist, because everybody has regrets. You have to have regrets in life to learn and become a better person. You have to acknowledge your mistakes and become better. So I think that'll be Daniel's character arc, that he realizes that Miyagi did make mistakes, but he became so wise because of those mistakes. I think that at the end of the day, Johnny Lawrence is going to get Cobra Kai. I think that the series will go back to where it was in season 1. I think at some point, and they have been teasing this and building it up, I think Krese will eventually acknowledge Johnny as his favorite student, because that's been teased all throughout the series. And I'm not saying that Krese will become a good guy. I'm not saying he'll fully turn back to the good side, but he'll show some compassion and some love for Johnny Lawrence. Now, I think it's possible that he may end up going back into jail or dying, because I don't see any future Karate Kid projects featuring John Kreese. I feel like the best way to send that character off permanently is either by going to prison or by dying, literally dying at some point here. He is an older guy, so it makes sense. And part of that could be the fact that I don't think, in fact, I'm relatively certain that we haven't seen the last of Terry Silver. Terry Silver has a ton of money. He's wealthy. He's got lawyers. He's no question out of prison. Flew himself to Barcelona because, remember, the Cobra Kai, it was his Cobra Kai team that got them in the tournament to begin with. So I do see there being another conflict between Terry and John Kreese that could end up in a battle between the two. We may actually see that fight. It's been teased, but I could totally see us seeing that fight between Kreese and Silver. Silver's another character that I think is not going to make it past season 6. I think everyone will survive. The only characters who might die are Terry Silver and John Kreese, and this has been teased. If you go back and you look at the previous seasons of Cobra Kai, Terry Silver was taking medicine. Terry Silver multiple times said that Cobra Kai is his legacy. That's what he wants to leave behind. He says also that when he fought Chosen in season 5, he said he's not afraid to die. There's a lot of moments where Terry Silver has kind of not given a damn about his life, and the fact that he was taking medicine tells me he's got some kind of terminal illness. They also mentioned in the very first episode he appeared in about him going to the hospital. Maybe he's got cancer or something like that, and he wants to fulfill this goal before the disease gets him. I think all of that is very, very possible. And I think it's going to happen. I actually do think that. I think Terry Silver will die in season 6. Now, besides that, the big villain, well, the antagonist, besides those two, is going to be the Korean Taekwondo expert from Cobra Kai, Kwon Jae-sung, played by Brandon H. Lee. Kwon Jae-sung is a legitimate martial artist, legitimate Taekwondo guy, comes from a Taekwondo family. He has this really awesome flying spin kick that's going to look awesome when we see it in Cobra Kai. And there's no question he's going to be the big rival. He's like a combination of Johnny Lawrence from the first movie and Chosen from the second movie back then when they were bullies, but they were also assholes. That's where I see this character going. I totally see it to where he's going to be the antagonist, and I think that the tournament will end the male side with him against Robbie, and Robbie will win. I think it's very possible and likely that Robbie will finally get his win and become the champion martial artist. And because remember, it's always been second place, second place, second place. Now he wants to get first place. I think they're going to wrap that up very nicely. I think that when all is said and done, I think that because the last episode is called X Degenerate and the first episode is called Ace Degenerate. So I think in the last episode, Johnny will have his baby with Carmen, right? They'll have their kid, and Johnny will probably run Cobra Kai because I think Krese will give it to him. And I think Johnny will run Cobra Kai as a martial arts studio, and he's going to be the boss, except instead of it saying strike first, strike hard, no mercy, I think instead it'll say strike first, strike hard, show mercy. I think that it's going to be a new era of Cobra Kai, which was teased all the way back in season 1. And now with Krese and Silver gone, I think now Johnny can fully embrace his new vision of Cobra Kai. And he might even get support from Daniel. Daniel will support him. I don't think he's going to be training the Miyagi-Do. But maybe not, because the Karate Kid film coming out next year may feature the Miyagi-Do and his dojo. We'll see. I think that we're going to see another fight between Tori and Samantha. I think Peyton List is not only gorgeous, but also a phenomenal actress. And she really showed her chops in the last couple of seasons. I think that her aligning herself with Krese makes perfect sense, because Krese did tell her that they would never pick her over their own daughter, and Krese is the one guy who's like a father figure to her. Let's not forget what happened with him and the landlord. So Krese is the guy who she trusts. He's the guy who, even though she knows he's bad news, she feels comfortable with him. Whereas being on the same team as Samantha, when her dad is one of the senseis, obviously, is a conflict of interest for her. Her motivation makes sense. She's also got PTSD. She's emotionally damaged by the passing of her mom. I can relate. So I do think that there's a very high probability that she'll have another character arc where she will eventually turn back to the light, and her and Samantha will become friends. I also think that a lot of the show is going to end with all the kids going off to college, including, I think, Hawk not going to MIT. I think he's going to choose to go to a local college, or he might actually go to MIT. I don't know, but I think that's going to be sort of the closure of that character, is him, now that he's a martial artist and he's competed on the world stage, he can go back to being, a student and find himself a better life. Dimitri will probably end up going to MIT himself. I think that with this new character, this new villain, Kwon, I think what they're going to do is they're going to put a lot of heat on him. I think that during the tournament, Kwon's going to fight Miguel and possibly re-injure his back. I see a situation where Kwon is going to just tear Miguel apart, just destroy him, and that's going to be where Robbie starts to get a little concerned, because Miguel was always his rival, and he's getting torn up completely by Quan, so he's going to start questioning whether or not he can do it. It's going to be the underdog story. I think that for the tournament, they are going to play You're the Best Around finally. They've been waiting 6 seasons to do it. You might as well do it here. I think it's going to happen, and I'm going to be so excited when it does. I'm going to be so happy. Because we didn't see everybody on Team Cobra Kai, I think there's a high probability that Kenny will end up back on Team Cobra Kai and be in the tournament. I think that eventually him and Robbie are going to resolve their issues, I would assume. And then him and his older brother can kind of be cool with them at the very least. I don't see much else as far as development goes for that character, but hey, who knows? And I think that he's going to enter the tournament and blame Samantha's younger brother, Anthony, and think that he's the one that put the X-Lax, that gave him the X-Lax, but I think clearly we're going to find out it was Devin, the girl, and I think that she will probably either be kicked off the team or resign out of shame because she cheated to get there. Of course, that's all influence from Johnny. Johnny has to also learn to be careful what he tells these kids because it might be the wrong message. And remember, he's becoming a father, so that's important. I think Chosen will be back from Japan and probably compete. Well, not compete. He'll be in Barcelona with the team. I think he will also help train. He'll definitely be there with Johnny and with Daniel for sure. I think ultimately he's going to end up with the girl. I do think he will go to Japan and end up with her, and that'll be kind of his closure. You know, being with her in Japan happily ever after. There's going to be, I think the show's going to have a lot of real happy moments at the end and also some bittersweet ones because I think the main thing is we're going to see a sign of humanity from John Kreese. John Kreese is a very tortured man. He's not a psychopath like Terry Silver. He's a very tortured soul. He's a man who has a lot of pride, but he's also a man who's been through a lot. And because of that, these traumatic events shaped him. And I think finding out that Miyagi also had his own set of traumatic events, not to say it'll bond Kreese with Daniel, but it'll show that Kreese is a human and that he's flawed and that he's like that simply because of the fact that he's been through a lot of shit. You understand what I'm saying? And I think we're going to see him get humanized. We see it a little bit with Tori. Clearly he sees Tori as the new Johnny, and that's clearly where they're going with it. And he's going to manipulate her and all that and try to even manipulate Johnny. But I still believe that he's going to show at some point in this show that he loves Johnny and that he, that he considers him like a son. I actually do believe that's going to be a story. Like, that's going to be the end of that character. And it'll be bittersweet because just when he's showing his humanity, he'll either go back to prison or die. Because let's not forget, he broke out of prison. Yes, he was innocent. He didn't beat up, Stingray, but he still broke out of prison. So he's a wanted man. Stingray, it doesn't matter. He's a comedy character anyways. What I don't want to see, and I don't think they're going to do this, but I don't want to see a situation where, like, they use AI to create, like, a ghost of Miyagi to talk to Daniel. I don't want to see that. I really don't. I don't want to see that. I don't know anybody who does want to see that. I think Miyagi, they've done enough to tribute Pat Morita and the character of Mr. Miyagi throughout this entire show. There's no need to go that extra level. I think that the backstory of Miyagi should be a story point in and of itself, and I think it should be used to develop Daniel. There's not much else you can really do with the Miyagi character. However, the creators recently did an interview and they discussed the possibility of doing a Miyagi prequel series about him when he was young and maybe shed some light on sort of what was left in that box. Also, if you notice, in that box there was a Chinese coin, which means that at some point Miyagi went to China, and that could of course lead to him meeting Han, who is played by Jackie Chan in the Karate Kid 2010 film, and maybe they had, not saying they were rivals or anything, maybe they knew each other. And that could all tie into the Karate Kid 2025. So, with good writing and thinking and having a plan, unlike Star Wars, Cobra Kai has hooked me forever, and I'm super happy with this show, and Honestly, man, it makes me hate Star Wars because they could have done this and they didn't. And it's just very frustrating. But I cannot wait to see the rest of season 6. The fights are going to be crazy. I expect to see a lot of blood. This is the big finale, man, so they got to end it with a bang. What do you think? Give me your theories in the comments down below. Give me your thoughts on my theories and give me yours. Welcome to World of Geekdom. Leave a like, subscribe if you're new. Take care.